All right, let's do it live on a Tuesday edition of the program. Tuesday. I've taken to that. I really have.
It's fun.
I really enjoy a Tuesday edition.
Kingsley would like to incorporate that into his vocab as well.
Yeah, Kingsley probably would like it. He's having a good run of play of late.
It's great.
Across all fronts. Really thriving. Had an artwork selection that is going to go at some sort of thing at the high school. So that's exciting. Part of the God Squad on the lacrosse team. So he's really chesty and thriving. Did not have a good morning with Bootsy this morning at all.
You didn't or he didn't?
Well,
or no one
both.
did?
He came down in navy and white horizontal striped leggings.
Love it.
Aqua and black Puma shorts, and a red and black Jordan T-shirt.
Hold on a second. Leggings underneath?
Yeah, like the Nike.
Like tights?
Like tights. Yeah, they wear them like for sports.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, those. So you had that.
But there he has some horizontal striped ones?
Yeah, Under Armour they're Under Armour, and they're mostly navy with like white pinstripes.
Okay.
Across.
Okay.
Like horizontal.
Okay.
So he wore that with like a light blue short, Puma short with a black stripe. So none of that goes. And then he had a black and red Jordan T-shirt on. And I go, what are we doing here, pal? I go, this isn't going to work. Immediately, oh, God, why does this always happen to me?
It's in, though. Mixing colors is in right now.
No, not. I said, we have rules. I said, we're not having this. We're not going to have this. We got to go sort it out. So we went upstairs, and then it was just a meltdown, total meltdown as I put him in some joggers and a T-shirt. So you can't go to school like that, dude.
He was unhappy.
Oh, Amy told me that even going into school, he was muttering, he was still pissed off about it. Crocodile tears. So that was the morning to me. The other part of the morning for me this morning was Black Cobra, the 10-year-old. Like he's at this age where he's testing me on everything, and he goes, here, can you solve a Rubik's Cube in a minute and a half?
No.
And I said, no, I can't. And he goes, well, there's a 10-year-old in my class who can do it in a minute.
Great.
Does that mean he's smarter than you?
No.
No, it doesn't.
Mm-mm.
But I'm proud of you.
For
your
knowing
kids doing that, trying to stick it to you.
So my kids have entered the phase at 14 and 12 where like one of their favorite things to do. I feel like I'm a pretty easygoing guy, pretty easygoing father.
You are the most glasses half full, gulp at life.
They just love to mock me now. Like everything.
Like,
oh my God. And they think it is hilarious. And of course, I will sell it if they get me a good one. Like I'll be wounded and I'll give them exactly what they're looking for. But yeah, they really enjoy
just unprovoked.
Yeah, unprovoked mocking. And I'm out here trying to be nice.
Yeah,
trying to just shower them with love and affection. I know growing up on the ranch, there wasn't time for like dad to be like, hey, I just want you to know, like, I'm so proud of you, how much I love you. Like, you didn't hear those things. We got brown spotted's birthing the next generation, and you got to tend to that, and so like, there wasn't a lot of that. So I, as kind of a reaction to that, I probably over tell them how much I love them, how proud of them I am, and all of that, and like, they're just like, yeah, but we just want to make fun of you, basically, is where we're at.
Well, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Like, what's the deal? Come on, man. Let's just get along.
What did I do? Can't we all just be friends?
Yeah, right.
Good grief. Yeah, that's where you're at.
It's hard. Let me tell you something. I think that you said something yesterday that was so spot on and prescient that you're like, I just want to keep Bootsy like right here forever.
Yeah, I wanted him to be in this package. Like he entered this age. I think he entered this fun time at like probably 3.5 into 4. And then I just want it to be there. I'd like it. I feel like we're coming to the end of it, of like his pure joy. He's always going to have a zest for life. Like that's part of his spirit. But in terms of like everything he says just being silly and funny and all of that, I feel like we're nearing the beginning of the end of it.
Yeah. And then just wait. Like you're going to go from being the coolest dude in the world and, oh, Dad, you're the hero, to like, I'd rather make fun of you.
Oh, yeah. That's what's. I felt like that was happening with this Rubik's Cube conversation this morning.
Just be like, how many other dads know about last drops and bots and dog water?
That's right.
Yeah, relax. You're safe.
It's not. That continues to be hilarious, by the way.
I love that. It makes me so happy.
He wants to know why, where I got it, how I came to the information. And then he kind of pushes back and he's like, well, you don't really know that. Like, I know you don't really know what that is. So then it was like, fine, play me. Let's go. And the thing, like, he wanted me to like play him in
what,
the Fortnite.
one-on-one in creative?
I have.
That's what he says. Be like, what do you want to do? One-on-one in creative? We go one-on-one in the creative. Want to do some? Yeah. Say, what do you want to do? Some Zone Wars? Fine, we'll do it. Go one-on-one in creative. Maybe we'll do Zone Wars.
Do you think I can beat him in those things?
No. No, I think you'll be dead before you even know what is happening.
He beat me like he was. I don't think I told you this. It was right before spring break. He was begging me to play 2K, and
Hoops?
And I said, fine.
That I would smoke him in.
Fine, I'll play you. Fine. And I'm thinking to myself, normally my trick to this is, the direct passing is my trick.
Yeah,
on all of this.
Very
pretty
important.
critical, and they don't do that much, or they hadn't previously. So what I don't have the touch on the 3 right, and I did pull a Zago. Like, it was into the third quarter, and I knew there was no way that I could catch up. He was up like a dozen, and he was hitting threes. And I picked a team. I can't remember who I picked. I want to say I picked Phoenix, and I could not get Devin Booker right.
Okay.
I couldn't get the stroke.
Certain people's releases are different. You got to find somebody whose release works for your button style.
And he clearly had a team that he had played with a lot, and so he had it down. And I knew. I said, well, I got to go make dinner. I'm out. I'll see you later. He was so fired up about it. But I did use the lessons of Zago.
Yeah, it's good. Listen,
yeah, it's a great lesson. Just
keeping his memory alive. Zago.
Yeah.
You got to. Somebody just walk off. Too dark. Too close to dinner. Sorry about that.
Nothing to see.
When I come over,
yeah,
we'll serve them a big slice of humble pie on the sticks. It'll be great.
Oh, I think so, and I think you bring Bryce, and then we do the Fortnite.
Yeah,
but he's not cocky about Fortnite. Like, he's got buddies who are like, that's their world.
That's what they do.
And like, it's last night they were yelling at each other like crazy.
Oh yeah, it can break down.
Yeah,
I've seen some breakdowns.
I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, your buddies, you lunatics.
By the way, some of the reason I think that they sometimes are talking crazy to me is because I think that's how these kids talk to each other now.
I think you're right.
And I don't know, going back, like, I can't remember when I started really like smack talking with my friends, and I would have to imagine being me, but felt later than this though.
It was way later. You weren't doing it at this age. No. It was.
I just feel like
we weren't
grade,
even aware.
7th grade, 8th grade, maybe.
You're not even aware of like guys running their mouth. I mean, the only point of reference you would have had on that is like athletes,
sports. Yeah,
but there weren't a lot of guys that. I mean, Bird was pretty discreet.
Yeah.
With it,
Charles Barkley.
Yeah. But we would have been middle school, high school at the time that's going on.
Yeah, that's when I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, much later. The draft is Thursday. What is your favorite draft memory?
With the Browns?
Either, or as a kid. You may have one of each. Is there one that jumps out?
I just remember, like, from being a kid, what I loved was when they'd show the shot of the guys sitting in front of with their helmets, like who are making the actual picks. Like, that was always super cool to me, and I remember seeing that and loving it and writing down, I'd always write down the 49ers whole draft and everything like that. From a Browns memory standpoint, and actually I was asked this last night, or was that last night? When was it? Or is this on the BPA? I did so much for you yesterday, Gibby.
You did do a lot. You did a lot.
Was this on the BPA that you asked about the best draft memory?
It was BPA.
Yeah, it was BPA.
Oh, so no one will ever hear it. Go ahead.
Don't say that. I'm on it. Clooney ratings.
Coming in to take you out.
By the way,
a Fortnite real life battle.
By the way, though, Gibby, speaking of the BPA, before I tell the story really quickly, did you see that some guy was after you last night? Yeah, Craig Herbert. He said, "Whoa, why did CBD disappear from Google Podcasts? I smell sabotage. It was removed from my subs, and BPA is the first result when I searched for it." Gibbs, I'm on to you, buddy. Your defense.
Well, here's my answer to that. Number one, I don't have iTunes. I don't have Spotify. The only way I listen to the podcast are through Google Play. So I doubt that I'm sabotaging myself. I'm just going to throw that out there.
So you're saying you like to live the show, actually do it, and then go listen to it?
Then listen to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how I know how many times you screw up in 2 hours.
That's love.
What was the that's an Austin Powers something of myself. What is that? Is that an Austin Powers?
Please allow myself to introduce myself.
Yes.
No, I go back. I air check a lot of those shows.
Yeah.
Love. That's why you're the big P.
Yeah.
That's why the big P. So, Beck, you said favorite draft memory.
Go ahead. Yep.
So this one didn't turn out in matter of fact, it didn't work out at all. But at the time, I was in Radio City Music Hall. The draft was still there. It was my first year going to the draft with the Browns.
Oh, God.
I somehow, and there's a video Jeff McDaniel put together, and I don't even know how I did this, but I said I think the Browns are going to move down, and they're going to be looking at a cornerback, and then I said I could see them trading back up later in the first round and going after a quarterback, and that's literally exactly what happened. And this was
pre-scores.
Yeah, no scores, like scoreless. Yeah, I was scoreless Joe Jackson there. So it ended up happening, but being in Radio City Music Hall, when the Browns trade back up to 22, and you start to, there was like an electricity because people thought it was going to be Johnny. When it was, in fact, Johnny Manziel, people went bonkers. And I remember being in the streets of New York City after that, walking around, and people associated with the Browns as part of the organization, and then fans, like, leaning outside of their cars, leaning out of taxis that are driving, screaming like as if it was the greatest thing that had ever happened. And in that moment, like, I've never had more fun at a draft. I was there. I was in the building in Radio City Music Hall, which was really cool because they don't do that anymore.
Yep.
And it was just electric. Now, it didn't work out. That was actually the peak of the entire era.
I was just going to say, is that – I think you make a decent argument that is the biggest – both the highest low or the highest high and the lowest low in recent draft memory in terms of because that was an event.
Yes.
The entire draft was about John football.
Yes.
College football had been about John football since the year before when he won the Heisman. He didn't win it the year he was drafted. He won it as a redshirt freshman. Redshirt sophomore year, there's the crazy piece, the Wright Thompson piece in ESPN, the magazine, about his behavior. He was suspended games. Yes. All of those things had happened. And then it was the pro day was a circus. He did it with the helmet and all of that. And it was like, can he play? Can he not? All of these things. And then it's the Browns of all teams coming to get him. The juice behind that. That's all anyone was talking about. You could not have won the night bigger than that.
No.
And then 2 years later, gone.
2 years, both of them gone.
Yes.
You had two in one of the most historically loaded drafts in the history of the NFL, 2014. Both of your guys don't make it in the league. They don't play out their rookie contracts in the NFL. But on that night, the energy and the electricity that came out of that building and then was all over Manhattan. And I remember, I have goosebumps now coming back here and getting to interview him. Like, you were here, I would imagine, with
I was
KNR.
I was in the hallway outside.
Like, it was nuts. And it was all pure joy. Like, there weren't – maybe, actually, I think your guy, Mr. Grossi, had some reservations at the time.
No, but I can tell you that media room did not want that circus coming to town.
That's ridiculous. I mean,
no.
Well, their glass is half empty to begin with.
Hold on. There's excitement, but there's also we've been told a lot of things about this guy, and I don't.
Oh my God! Why are you wet blanketing right now? At the time, like, I'm not wrong. I'm not misremembering this. It was like completely. People were
from a fan side of
bonkers.
Things? Oh yeah.
There was more energy, and like, they could have walked into that draft room. Like, I remember him holding up the jersey, him and Gilbert. Like, they could have walked in like Vince
the money
McMahon.
Signs coming out on stage.
I mean, it was.
I remember
it was electric. It was so WWE in retrospect, like, and then but in WWE, because they scripted it would work out. Like, this would all come to fruition, and he would become the big star, and then turn heel. Well, and in this case, he just turned heel, and it never worked out, unfortunately.
And something similar on my end, same type of deal in 2007 when the Browns came back up to get Brady Quinn.
I was doing radio for KNR at that draft. I did that draft. I was at a bar.
It was a 2-day event. And we were always at Harpo's, the old sports bar.
Where's that, in like Broadview Heights area?
What's that?
Where is that, in like Broadview Heights area?
130th and Snow? Brook Park.
Brook Park area? Okay.
Brook Park.
I was there.
We had this bar. It was a tradition. We would be there every year for the draft, day one. And the draft started at noon. It was always the first 3 rounds of the draft. And people would bring lawn chairs and set up at 6 in the morning to get a spot because we'd open the doors at 8, and it was a booze fest.
Oh, man. People were going bonkers in there.
10 deep at the bar. It was crazy. So the Browns take Joe Thomas. And, you know, the room was a little – I don't want to say it was divided because people were like, we need a quarterback. Brady Quinn's on the board, but we need Joe Thomas. And everybody knew Joe Thomas was going to be a guy. So
the Huff.
That's right.
We had the owner of this bar would not comp our food. We were there all day doing basically a 12-hour
really?
show. This guy would not comp our food. So the one year I just said, screw you, I'm not going to spend a dime. I parked our van, which was like it was like a Flintstone van. I thought the bottom was going to fall out numerous times driving it. We set up. I got a bunch of trade. I was the head promotion director. We did an all-you-can-eat pizza, pasta bar inside the van. We set it up like we didn't spend a penny. We bought all these drinks. I'm like, this guy's not going to make 1 penny off of us.
Why didn't you just pick another bar?
It was a beer-driven promotion.
Oh.
So in terms of where we went,
where you had to go, and so they had
wait. By the way, it was still the best place to do the show.
Sure.
Because of how much room there was. There were 2 levels. There was a balcony overlooking. I'm in the I finally got a chance to go grab a bite to eat. And I'm in the van, and I'm listening to the show, and I'm listening to Reggae, and I can't remember who else. It might have been Greg Brinda was on at that time. Rhoda, I think, was there too. And the helmet switched, and they were like, the helmet switched, and I stand up.
I was on.
I almost knocked myself unconscious to get back out of the van because I've got to go back inside.
Because Flacco went like 18 or something like that. That was the same draft. Flacco went out of Delaware.
Yep.
Went to the Ravens. Yeah.
And
people were going nuts.
It became like people – because it starts to thin out. After the Browns make their pick, any party you're at, within an hour and a half after the team makes the pick, people start to leave. People were racing into the parking lot at like 90 miles an hour. Before I knew it, the whole bar was 10 full again, and it was a full-on beer blast till like 2 in the morning, celebrating the fact you had gotten your left tackle and your quarterback. 1 out of the 2 worked.
Well, that hit home. I was in Columbus at the time, and obviously he's a Dublin kid. And so there was great attention paid to Brady and where that was all going to go. Man, that's circus, man. That's absolute circus. That draft, you want to talk about loaded drafts? That draft, the 2007 draft, Jamarcus Russell goes 1. And despite any conversation about Ryan Leaf being the biggest drafted bust in NFL history, it's Jamarcus Russell. Draft. It goes Calvin Johnson at 2. Joe Thomas, the Hoff, at 3.
Yeah.
Adrian Peterson's in this draft at
7.
My goodness. Patrick Willis at 11. Marshawn Lynch at 12. Revis at 14. Yeah. Holy cow. This thing's absolutely bonkers with talent. And it continues. I mean, there's great guys all the way throughout.
You even had, and like LaRon Landry was a Pro Bowler. Lawrence Timmons was a Pro Bowler. Michael Griffin was a Pro Bowler. Reggie Nelson was a Pro Bowler at safety. Dwayne Bowe, Brandon Merriweather, John Beeson, Anthony Spencer, Joe Staley, Ben Grubbs. Greg Olson goes at the end of the first one. So this wasn't the Flacco draft. He was the next year? Was he? He was right around here.
It had to be right around here.
Because I did this for a few years for KNR, and I was at the Flacco one as well, but I was definitely at this one. Eric Weddle is in this. Pozlesny. Lamar Woodley.
07's an all-timer.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a good draft. Marshall Yanda in the 3rd round. Look at all the guys who made Pro Bowls. Quite a few of them. Nick Folk, 6th round, Dallas Cowboys, still kicking to this day. Yeah, that was a good one.
That's the beauty of the draft, though, man, is there is that. Flacco's the next year. So the next year, Matt Ryan goes 3rd.
Yep.
It goes Jake Long, Chris Long, Matt Ryan, Darren McFadden, Glenn Dorsey is 1 through 5 in the next year's draft.
All right, so remember when I was mentioning you want to talk about a draft? 2014. Pick number 1, Jadeveon Clowney, Pro Bowler, multiple time. 2, Greg Robinson, didn't work out well. 3, Blake Bortles. 4, Sammy Watkins. That was in the trade down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then everybody from pick 5 to pick 17 have all been Pro Bowlers except Justin Gilbert. Khalil Mack, Jake Matthews, Mike Evans, Anthony Barr, Eric Ebron, Taylor Lewan, Odell Beckham Jr. Oh, Aaron Donald went 13th in this draft. Kyle Fuller, Ryan Shazier, who was I think on his way to potentially a gold jacket type of a career.
He was, yeah.
Zach Martin, C.J. Mosley. Then Brandon Cooks has never gone to a Pro Bowl, which is astounding to me, but has had a great, great career. Ha-Ha Clinton Dix, Pro Bowler. D. Ford, Pro Bowler. Jason Verrett, Pro Bowler. Teddy Bridgewater's been a Pro Bowler. DeMarcus Lawrence goes second pick of the second round. Third pick of the second round is Batonio. Fourth pick of the second round is Derek Carr. I mean, it's just an unbelievable. And then, also in that second round, pick 53, Devontae Adams. Pick 61, Allen Robinson. Pick 63, Jarvis Landry. Pick 62, by the way, James Garoppolo. You also had
Zegura was on that Allen Robinson bandwagon.
Oh, God, I wanted him bad.
He's still on the Allen Robinson
bandwagon. Man.
Yeah, it's fascinating how I think that's it, though. If you go back to the premise of Manziel, the highest high to the lowest low, I mean, it's 8 starts.
It's crazy, though. So just from picks 5 to 22, and the Browns would have 2 picks in here. From 5 to 22, there are only 5 guys who never appeared in a Pro Bowl. Okay? Only 5. Gilbert, Calvin Pryor, who spent some time with the Browns but was out of the league, ended up being a big bust. Juwan James has been a solid tackle in the league for the entirety of this time. And then Brandon Cooks, all he does is have 1,000-yard seasons all the time. So, you would have been, if you drafted Brandon Cooks out of Oregon State, you'd ended up being very happy with what you got out of him. And yet, they didn't even make it out of their rookie contracts. It's unbelievable. In the league, as in staying in the National Football League.
The John one, I mean, the Gilbert one, I don't recall. I don't recall what was the excitement of him or what. I don't remember that part of it.
That'll be in the winning time.
I'll tell you. That will be, that will be. The John Manziel 30 for 30, 10 years from now, is going to be a must-see event. He needs to be a lot older.
Do you think they'll do one?
Yeah, because they did one for Boz. They did one for a lot of these guys that had that. It's because it's got everything that you want. I mean, it's got every bit of drama.
It's everything that I wanted.
No, I understand, but from in terms of viewing it standpoint, it's got every twist and turn that you'd want.
I mean, it goes back to Beau, what you said yesterday about Baker. At Oklahoma, he was a transformative player. Johnny Manziel put Texas A&M football back on the map.
No, there's no question. He put it on the map.
He was a phenomenon.
They don't even have the Oklahoma history that Baker had at Oklahoma. A&M doesn't have that. They don't have national championships.
All right, I'm going to say something, and you may have facts that tell me that I'm an idiot.
Okay.
I'm ready.
However, there it is. The swag is back. Look at it. The fine Italian leather.
Of course.
Unbelievable. he's got knee kicks.
And there it is.
There it is.
And yet very believable.
Yes. So here's my
right,
bold statement.
Go ahead.
And I don't believe it's that bold because this is coming through my lens.
Sure.
I don't think college football, at least in my lifetime, was ever bigger or more mainstream than it was at the peak of Johnny Football. It was everywhere. And I know that people love college football. It continues, probably maybe ratings are getting bigger, but I'm talking about as a phenomenon that everybody knew, whether you were a college football fan or not. John Football, I feel like, was the peak. Tebow would be the other peak. To me, those are the two guys that, I couldn't, even though I wasn't a huge college football guy per se, they were everywhere. Your thoughts? You're much more of an expert on this.
I don't think it was the peak. I think that it was a perfect storm of, it was kind of a building of social media, the expansion of the Southeastern Conference. Johnny Football got more out of beating Bama.
Yes,
than anybody got out of anything. He beat Bama as a redshirt freshman. He did not beat him as a sophomore in his second year. He beat him as a redshirt freshman. Nobody had beaten Bama in a while. And Texas A&M had just come into the SEC, so that was a critical part of it. I don't think it's not peak college football. I think peak college football would probably have been there's a lot of eras that would have been peak college football from a popularity standpoint, but certainly in the early 2000s, Vince Young against Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart when they're dating Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian, that's way up there. The Miami teams in the early 2000s would have been way up there. Those were big time and known. From a rating standpoint, it probably got bigger later.
Right,
he was a phenomenon. There's no question he was a phenomenon. but he wasn't bigger than Peyton Manning was at Tennessee. He wouldn't have been.
Really?
No. Oh, no.
I feel like from a pop culture standpoint.
But again, it's the social media part of it. Like
that's fair.
The others didn't.
Because Peyton was
that.
good and was just like a normal guy. This was John football. I mean,
it was the social media aspect that allowed for.
He had an ex-president at his pro day that he did in a helmet and camo that they sold out of.
I will tell you this: he was the peak college football celebrity.
That's what I mean. Yes.
I will say that.
Fine. That's what I'm saying.
He was the peak college football celebrity, probably even usurping Bush and Leinart when they were, at that.
Was Tebow not as big as I am making
it out
to be?
He was an incredible cultural phenomenon in the South.
Gotcha.
And really very
John
well
football
known.
Was just.
But John football was, and what was crazy
That's a good
about
way to
him
say
is that
cultural phenomenon.
He didn't have Johnny did not have the most people in college football. It's not like you viewed Johnny as like a sure thing. I mean, in a way, he was kind of like a modern incarnation of like if you think of like what Archie Manning was like at Ole Miss, like a schoolboy sensation, or Billy Cannon at LSU, where it was like you weren't worried about if they were going to be pros or not. It was just this guy has captured a city and a college and a campus.
That was the time when I was watching a lot of tape this 14 draft, and I had very well formulated opinions, and I said I have no idea. I remember my conclusion on Johnny Manziel. You can see things that make think he's great. I have no idea. I have no idea of the maturity of the guy. Like there's stuff that I wouldn't have access to just from watching him play tape. He doesn't play quarterback the way that you would traditionally see people be successful in the NFL, but maybe it's a new era of kind of backyard football. But my biggest takeaway when I watched hours and hours and hours and every throw that he ever made was, who the hell is Mike Evans? I want that guy. Because it felt like a lot of it
People forget that Mike was on that team.
I'm going to run around, and then I'm going to throw it up, and by the way, I'm throwing it to Mike Evans playing against people in college. And people also forget Jake Matthews was on that line.
They had a very good offensive
line.
line.
Matthews goes 6th. Evans goes 7th.
I want to say that Rick Seals-Jones came in there somewhere around that port, either right after or right before.
Big Rick Seals guy.
Yeah, he was in the mix. No, he was a phenomenon. There's no doubt. But I don't remember all the quarterbacks in that draft in 2014. Like, who were the other guys that were in the mix?
Teddy, John Football, Carr, Derek Carr, Garoppolo, Blake Bortles. Okay. Bortles goes 3rd.
So here was the other thing to remember, and I think I have the numbers on this right. The next year, Johnny's sophomore year, Winston wins the Heisman at Florida State. And Winston, it was like, oh, this dude's a pro.
Yeah, then
Winston was a pro.
Winston Mariota.
They win it back-to-back, but Winston won it redshirt as a freshman. Mariota wins it the next year. Florida State went undefeated. He won the national title. So it was like, even as Johnny was draft eligible, you knew that there was a better prospect coming. And so that was – but as a phenom, no, he was probably peak college football phenom, other than like the old days, like the 50s where you would hear about crazy
and that's
stories
I think
of
maybe
mythology.
That's what I meant. Maybe not college, but just like in terms of his star was as bright as any I can ever recall.
I think that's very, very fair. Your conversation with Andrew Berry coming up
By
next.
the way, what a segment. I just looked at the clock. It's 1:30. No big deal. What do you want?
When you're out there having fun.
What do you want?
When you're out there having fun and you get
Scaramouche. We haven't even heard about Frank Severo's response to your DM yet.
No, we have not. Andrew Berry coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Frank Severo.
Beau here for Char Whiskey Bar and Grill in Rocky River. Sip on your choice of over 300 premium whiskeys, craft cocktails, catching a game at Char Bar, always a win. Also coming out with that new spring menu. It's coming out next week. New items on both the main and the brunch menus, oyster, shrimp cocktail, more. They're going to introduce the raw bar specials. You have that to look forward to, which is very, very nice. They do it right there. Check out their new chicken and waffles on the current brunch menu and enjoy your meal or drink on the outdoor patio as the weather gets a little bit warmer. Support local. Visit Char Whiskey Bar and Grill in Rocky River at charrockyriver.com. And now here's Z with Andrew Berry.
Here we are. Finally, so much work has gone in. You opened your comments thanking the area scouts and everything that in your group all the time people have put in to get to this moment. Is there kind of a sense of relief that it's here?
I'd say probably less a sense of relief and more a sense of both calm and excitement simultaneously. It's actually this week's actually a little bit slower. It's a little bit hurry up and wait as everybody comes back into the building. And really we're finalizing the undrafted free agent process. But everyone's excited for the weekend and looking forward to who the newest Browns are going to be.
We're certainly excited about that. And for the Browns, this draft doesn't start, at least as of today, until the second round pick number 44. Now, I was going back and remembering you haven't picked where you're supposed to pick at any point in the second round in your two drafts. This will be your third. The first time you move back, still get Grant Delpit, and then Nick Harris is a bonus there, who's now going to be the center for the Cleveland Browns. And then last year you move up to get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Is there something about the second round that makes it easy to maneuver up and down, what you've done in your 2 years?
I wouldn't say that there's anything specific to the second round. We just try and take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves to us over draft weekend. So that could really be any round of the draft.
Have you guys upgraded the simulation protocol? Because I was told last year we went through 1 million simulations, and yet none of them produce reality, which is Greg Newsome and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So have we upgraded this to account for even those things we consider unfathomable?
Hey, we will see today. Today is actually our simulation day, and I'll have a better answer for you in the press conference after the draft than I do today.
Okay, so walk us through that. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so we spent much of the last week really just talking through strategies at each of the different pick slots that we have. And then today, it's kind of both. It's a good kind of draft room operations test run, as well as a little bit of like team building with our area scouts in, where we run through maybe I don't know exact number. We went through a lot of mock draft simulations where some will be scripted, some will be off the cuff, some will be randomized, so that with the group that's in the draft room or operating in the draft room. It forces us to react to different situations as they arise, whether it's a fortunate situation at the time that we're picking at 44 or 78 or 99 or wherever that may be, or an unfortunate situation, or weighing trades. And it's less about the actual specific sequence of players, but more about the types of general situations that you're trying to tease out. So maybe it's a run on a certain position, or maybe it's an underpriced trade offer, or maybe it's an opportunity to move up or back by a large amount to really kind of tease out those preferences.
Has there been a situation that came up in these simulations in either of the last two drafts that actually then kind of happened, and so you were like, oh, we were hoping this happened, and then here it is?
Yeah, so actually several, to be honest with you. So
that's good.
Yeah,
in the future. You got a crystal ball.
Yeah, so the situation in 2020 with Grant, kind of a small move back, and we had a number of players that we liked at that spot. That was one. When we moved back to take Jordan Elliott and added a future third-round pick in that same draft, that was another. And then even last year with Jeremiah, even though we weren't considering him as the player that might be the faller, we run through a number of different scenarios where we had a group of players that we thought had some potential to go later than perhaps how we had valued them, and we kind of worked through what we would call small move-up pricing that would make us comfortable executing such a move. We didn't know it would be for Jeremiah at the time, but it helped us be prepared on draft day.
Because your first pick is slated at 44, do we kind of like sim the first round, so we go through that very quickly and then the scenario kind of starts in the second round, or do you go through as you would have last year when you did have a pick in the first round?
No, we go through pretty quickly if if we're not, it's not like we're going to spend 20 minutes going through the top 10. And there may be call it 15 players where you have pretty good indication that they're going to go well before your pick. So you may start the draft at 15 or 20 or 25, something along those lines, just to save time.
All right, this is something I always find fascinating, because I think people, you look at 7 rounds and 30-plus picks per round, and the fact that 200-plus players are going to get drafted, that everybody's got 200-plus players on their draft board. And I always think it's interesting how many people are actually on the draft board. So can you ballpark for us how many guys are actually on the draft board?
Yeah, it's usually anywhere from 100 to 125 for us.
Okay.
And I think part of it is just because the draft board, particularly once you get to the third round across the league, it diverges pretty significantly, because usually at that point in the draft you're talking about guys that may profile as role players or backups or developmental prospects, and that might be a little bit more organizational or scheme specific, based on the traits that you may prioritize.
How important is it, you mentioned kind of those late day 3 guys, we'll call them, how important is it to find people that can help your organization in those rounds? And I'll talk Donovan Peoples-Jones, the 6th rounders contributed, Demetric Felton last year, Nick Harris, a 5th rounder, now looking like your starting center. Given the way salaries work, the salary cap, to be able to have some of that, what I would call very well-priced labor for the organization.
Yeah, any time that you can find a contributor on a rookie deal, it helps out your team from a talent standpoint, and it helps out your team from a long-term planning perspective, because of the positive impact that it has on the salary cap. So those guys are key. They don't necessarily have to be stars or starters for them to provide value, but those picks are very, very important.
I want to ask you, you're talking about some of the exercises you guys do, and Depot shared this with us last year, was that at some point, I don't know if you've done this yet, again this year, or if you're going to do it again this year, and I may not have it exactly right, but that you would go around and it'd be everybody on the draft board, give me somebody that you would absolutely pound the table for, you'd have to have, and somebody who's on the board that you personally are like, that's not my guy. And that when you went around, basically, everybody, there was a lot of similarity on guys that were liked, but then also guys that people didn't like, to kind of show that at the end of the day, the only person, and I think what he said the line was, the only person in here that's going to draft somebody that they're not 100% against is you. Was that a cool exercise and just kind of eye-opening to see that how many great football minds can see, and probably why the draft's so hard, right? Because so many people can see things so differently.
Honestly, it's a little bit of an illustration. So what we did with that information, we said, okay, if we had to build a draft board where it was only players that had received, call it multiple votes as, hey, one of the players that people would be most excited to acquire, and multiple votes where least excited to acquire. If we eliminated those, and it would be like a draft board of 24 players, something along those lines. So it's a little bit more of an example to say, hey, the draft is hard and diverges pretty quickly. Like, take as much input as possible, but there are going to be guys that even internally people are more enthusiastic about or less enthusiastic about when you take them, and that's not a function of not listening or whatever, but just the player pool of like true quote unquote consensus players is very small, not only across the NFL but even within buildings.
When you get to that true, let's call it those 24, are they typically first rounders, or does it sometimes surprise that like they can be guys that are middle round guys?
No, they're usually the high picks.
Okay.
That's typically how it goes. That
makes it a little easier, right? Otherwise,
yeah.
Right? If there were no awards, you would be going early. What do you do on Thursday night? How do you approach a Thursday night? And I've some of the other GMs who, because this is a unique draft, right? I think there are 8 teams with multiple first round picks, 7 that don't have, both highest in NFL history. And I think in Miami, you guys said, we're just going to watch Tyreek Hill highlights. What are you going to do kind of during the first round? How do you approach that, knowing that you don't have a pick and that it would be not difficult, not impossible, but challenging probably to figure a way to get into the first round if you're so inclined?
I mean, you really still monitor it. So number one, you'll still spend time with your scouts and your staff, and certainly watch the draft. And some things do become actionable, certainly like later in the round. But the other thing is, it's not just picks that move during the draft. Sometimes it's players as well. So you really just really trying to be plugged in. Unlikely that we'll make a major decision on Thursday night. Sure. But you can't completely unplug.
You can't rule it out. You can't rule it out. How often does the phone ring, or do you make calls? Just we'll take it on a day we'll call it a Friday. In the draft, like, some people think it's frantic. Oh, call, trade this, do that. What's it actually like?
So it's usually pretty calm until maybe 5 to 7 slots before you pick. Yeah, before you pick. I would say honestly, as a matter of practice, either taking a call or making a call, probably like every pick through maybe like through the 4th round. Like as I think back to drafts, there probably hasn't been a pick in the first 3 rounds where we haven't taken a call or made a call. So it's the trade activity is usually pretty frequent. That's not always the case, but within the top 4 rounds, usually there's a fair amount of activity.
Whenever the phone rings, you kind of is it like a little jolt of excitement, like, oh man, what could be coming right here?
It kind of becomes par from the course at this point. So,
okay. And is it usually a quick no, like yeah, thanks?
No, you'd be surprised. Like,
okay.
You'd be surprised because part of it is you're trying to play out a number of different scenarios based on how the next several picks may fall. But again, that's why we try and sort through as much of that as possible last week, today, so you have a framework in place, so you're not really emotional during that time and you're organized.
We know you've been doing salary cap since you as a young man, which I know that you love this. But were you also doing drafts back then? I mean, I used to do Stratomatic with my dad. We would break up the whole NFL. We would draft the guys back out. Is that something that you always did as a young man as well?
That's something I don't think so. I mean, you probably have to ask my parents for that one, but I don't. That's not anything I remember really doing.
All right, what are you most looking forward to over the next 3 days?
Really probably just having everybody in who's worked so hard over the past 14 or 15 months. I feel like we've done a lot of really good work, and we're certainly excited about adding good players. But it's one of the few times, aside from camp, veteran mini camp as well, that that we really get to spend time together. And so it's kind of a great point in the year because so many people have made so many sacrifices to make the weekend successful.
And I'll go back to where I started, talked about those area scouts, and you mentioned also that there's a lot of undrafted free agent work. And I think everybody knows the draft. But the undrafted portion, you can end up with a guy like A.J. Green, who's been very good for us. That's kind of a recruitment period. I know it's something you're very excited about. What is it about that period? Because people say, well, they didn't even get drafted. But sometimes there's reasons for that, and you end up getting really good players there. That's kind of the draft after the draft. What do you love about that?
I think it's similar to how you operate in the late rounds because you realize that, the probability would say that the overwhelming majority probably won't work out over a long period of time. Some may not make it out of camp, some may make it on the practice squad, and then maybe fizzle out a little bit. But the reality is the impact of even just one guy making it over a multi-year period, and the impact
back in 30
from a performance and salary cap perspective, really kind of makes it worthwhile. It is a little bit of like kind of finding a needle in a haystack,
sure,
so to speak. But if you have a strong CFA class, it's something that can really help you over the long term. Again, even if they're not necessarily stars on your team.
AB, always
back in 10
to see what you're going to do here over the next few days, and as always, happy that you're the one leading this organization to put that best roster on the field and get ready for the 2022 season.
Appreciate you for having me, Nate.
All right, good. By the way, only he and Pedro can call you Nate, I think.
Yeah, it's a short list. It is a short list, but he fine. Maybe he can.
Early on in our tenure, I gave you a Nate. You didn't say anything, but I could tell that you weren't used to it. It was something. We were coming back from break and it was awkward, and I said, "Tell him what it's something Nate." I can't remember.
And I was like, huh?
It was early.
I was Nate my whole youth because Nate Dogg, growing up, Nate Dogg and Warren G, the regulators. That was like,
saddle up.
That was big, yeah. So I was definitely a Nate Dogg my whole youth, and then I feel like Nate sounds like for Nate Burleson it works because he's always Nate.
Yeah,
I feel like, but I was and he was Nasty Nate and Nathan. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Pedro and AB
nerd.
That's the one I love.
He still calls me like when he'll call or Nateski. He'll give me Nateski every now and then.
There you go. I like it. We'll go around the league coming up next, including the Niners. Are they willing to listen to offers for Debo? Of course they are, but we'll get into that, among other things, coming up next. Go ahead.
I also want to go through, I want to throw this into the rundown, being a big P right now, and we don't have to do it today, but did you happen to just glance at Bender did the best quarterback drafted at every number in the first round in NFL history?
I saw it this morning, but I didn't have a chance to click on it.
It's a sad list. Like, it is a shockingly sad list, in my opinion.
Not great.
Yeah, stunningly so.
It's really hard to land a quarterback.
Apparently.
Very, very difficult to do. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Advice out there about gambling, from secret methods to picking lottery numbers to betting big when you're on a roll. The mist can lose you money and keep you in a lot of trouble. So before you wager, find out what's real and what isn't at keepitfunohio.com. As we go around the league, the Saloon Font 49ers willing to listen to offers for Deebo Samuel. In general, Gibby wants to know, what do you think it would take to get him?
It's going to take a couple ones, probably. That's what they're going to want for him because he's still on that deal. I just don't – maybe it'll happen. My dad does not want it to happen. I can tell you that. We talked yesterday. Nerd. I was like, Dad, you see the new uniforms? Nah, I don't look at that crap. That's what he said.
He doesn't care.
I'm like, what do you mean? I said, they're going back to the 3 stripes, Joe Montedes, and I said, and they're going back to the Saloon font. Pause. Do you know what the Saloon font is, Dad? No. So I tell you, it's a cool-looking old 49ers. Like, everything's going back.
This man had 10,000 figurines. He's got to know what Saloon font is.
And then he was like, oh, yeah, it's going to go. So he's happy about that. But he's mad. Deebo, apparently, everybody's mad at Deebo now. The fans are mad at Deebo. They've had enough of it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember even him. He came out of South Carolina, didn't he? And I'm pretty sure he's a South Carolina guy. And I remember even in the draft process with him, like, one of the things was, is there a give a damn level? And I just remember kind of thinking to myself, well, that was probably just because he played at South Carolina, and what he's been.
Yeah, South Carolina.
What he's been in the league has been not that at all. He's been superb in the league. It does feel like the perfect marriage, though, is him there. It feels like it's flawless. Now, as I acknowledged, I did not realize he was as good as a straight receiver last year as he was.
Yeah.
I did not have that. I would not have had that he was that effective. So,
quite.
I mean, you think of landing spots. I mean, I think of the Packers right away as a landing spot for him. They got 2 ones.
The Jets.
Oh, God. No more in the AFC. I don't want him there. That's
disaster. Where I think it would end up. He's got LaFleur there, who they know the system. Saleh knows him.
Then you'd have to do.
They've got the early picks.
Do the Kyler deal.
They like Zach Wilson. They're not done on. They're not out on Zach Wilson.
That to me seems. We don't need anybody else good in the AFC.
Yeah, let him be bad. It's fine. Don't worry about
it. This one got a little bit of momentum last night. The Raiders having a conversation with the Packers about Darren Waller. Oh,
I believe we may have heard something along those lines a while ago.
These many months ago.
And there was a report which I saw yesterday that said the original Davante Adams trade was 22 and Waller for Davante Adams, and that the league, this is the way the report worded it, which I haven't seen anybody major run with that, but was that the league kiboshed the deal. Which
why?
How? Under what pretense?
Well, that happened. You remember this? I mean, the only thing I can remember of a league kiboshing a deal was the Chris Paul Lakers deal. You remember this?
Yeah.
When the league said no, we can't. Not fair. Wait, what? Everybody agreed to it. What do you mean?
As long as it's not collusion, you can't.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was a 3-team deal, and Paul was going to the Lakers, and it was done. Now they ended up getting Pau Gasol in another deal anyway, and Andrew Bynum was a big part of the success. But that was part of the deal that was all set up. So that was I was shocked that when you hear that they would put the kibosh on that deal.
Yeah.
Waller to the Packers. Derek Carr says no chance that's happening. Who knows, man? Who knows? Crazy thing. Do you think we're going to get one between now and the draft?
Yeah.
A big deal? Remember last year in the draft, like all of a sudden it became Aaron Rodgers wants out.
That was the night before.
Yeah.
I do feel like, again, I said something yesterday on the draft preview show with Mo Pedman's cousin that blew his mind when I said, I just feel like the Eagles are going to try. I said, I don't think maybe nothing happens, but they're going to try for Kyler, and I think they're going to try for Lamar Jackson. And he just almost fell out of the chair.
Yeah, I think that's in play. I mean, why wouldn't you? They're set up for it. They got all the picks. They got the roster. The NFC's wide open. Why would you not?
Wide open, yeah.
Go for it.
Sure.
From down in Cincinnati, T. Higgins will miss the Bengals' entire offseason. Also, this from the Bengals, Zach Taylor knew the Bengals weren't starting their offseason program until May 2nd. Taylor announced there would be no mandatory minicamp in June. Good idea or bad? He knows his team. Whatever. He knows his team. They know who they are. They're going to work in some offensive linemen.
I just feel like it's a new year. Like, you got to put that season to bed and start At what point are you going to start?
I'm
working?
with you, but does anybody's season come down to 3 days? And maybe it does. Maybe there's something that you put in that day that sticks. And I just think it's always good. By the way, like when you can't get tackled or whatever, I would have to think football practice is kind of fun.
The only thing
I feel like the guys would enjoy it.
The only thing I could think is that they ran it up the flagpole with Burrow, and Burrow's like, yeah, we're good. Like, I don't need any more. Like, I'm good. I mean, Burrow lives in Cincinnati year-round. So it's not like, he's there. He's at the facility. From what I understand down there, he's at the facility all the time. So, he's the most important one.
Yeah, I enjoy a good mini camp.
Well, I do too.
I don't know. It doesn't
especially
matter.
for us, for our purposes. I really enjoy a mini camp. This from Pittsburgh. General Manager Kevin Colbert expressed a willingness to move up or down the draft board, indicating his team would calculate the value of every spot in the draft, but also mentioned 2 specific spots. We'll guesstimate what it'll cost to move from 20 to 7 and go back down from 20 to 32. The Giants pick 7 and have been rumored to wanting to trade back. I think he's speaking in generalities.
100%. That's and everybody says that. And we just listen. Look, I just talked to Andrew Berry. We played it on the program, and they went through all of their simulations yesterday, all the different scenarios that they think could unfold. And I thought the one thing I loved about that Andrew Berry interview that was something that was new for me was that he said there is either a call in or a call out at basically every time you pick in the first 3 or 4 rounds, which I thought was very interesting, that there's always at least a discussion. It doesn't necessarily lead to anything, but there's always at least some type of a discussion that through those first 3-4 rounds in the draft about every pick. So every team's doing that. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's why we all love it, right? Is the possibilities of it. I think I have very little juice for this draft from the standpoint of we don't pick till 44.
Do you see what Mike Silver said?
No, what did he say?
He said that this draft, because is the most boring draft ever. Everybody who covers it knows it. It's like he called it the 1988 presidential election of drafts, which I thought.
Well, the
was
one
pretty
with
funny.
Eric Fisher and Luke Jekyll at the top, 13. That's not great.
No,
that's not great. That's a bad draft. Like DeAndre Hopkins is in that draft. Matthew and Kelsey are in that draft, but they're like in the 3rd round. The first round's a disaster in 13.
Don't even talk to me about the Honey Badger. The Honey Badger was taken, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't believe
Kelsey was taken with the first pick in the 3rd round, if memory serves.
I think
Badgers in the 3rd round. So Hopkins is like 27.
So here are the Pro Bowlers from the first round: Eric Fisher, Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson was probably a great pick. Ziggy Ansah had a couple of good years with Detroit. Sheldon Richardson, Eric Reed, the safety. Kyle Long, Tyler Eifert, Desmond Trufant had a couple of good years at corner. Xavier Rhodes in Minnesota. DeAndre Hopkins, 27. Cordero Patterson, 29. Travis Frederick, 31. You had Zach Ertz in the 2nd round. Darius Slay in the 2nd round was actually a pretty good pick. Le'Veon Bell was in the 2nd round of that draft. Jamie Collins. And then you're right, first pick of the 3rd round, Travis Kelce. Eddie Lacy. So pick number 69, 3rd round pick number 69, the Honey Badger, listed as a cornerback out of LSU. Pick number 68 made by the Cleveland Browns. Do you have any recollection? Gibbe would. I feel like Gibbe, I expect you to get this.
Have any.
The pick right before the Honey Badger, made by the Browns, cornerback.
It was at 69?
We picked at pick 68 out of San Diego State.
I remember that year we traded with the Steelers. We traded picks, and everybody lost their mind on day 3. Like, how do you trade with the Steelers?
Well, it's a good distraction.
We made a trade with the Steelers.
Who was it?
Leon McFadden.
Wow.
Oh, corner.
And we could have just had the Badger.
And we could have just picked Honey Badger, who literally was the very next pick.
I like Leon.
Not great.
This actually, there were some gems in here. 3rd round, Terran Armstead, who's turned out to be one of the best tackles.
2nd and 3rd rounds were actually better, with the exception of Hopkins. Like, there were some nice players in the first, but largely not.
Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
David Bakhtiari in the 4th round. How about for Green Bay? They get Bakhtiari in the 4th round. J.C. Treader also in the 4th round, that same draft. They never really knew what to do with him.
That was
Micah Hyde in the 5th round, also Green Bay. Green Bay had a pretty good
draft.
I think that was Rob Chudzinski and Joe Banner.
Yeah.
So that was our first
Lombardi.
year. That was my first year doing
Lombardi.
the radio network.
Yep.
And we had just gotten the rights. We did the draft show. We're on site. We were in the field house because the building was under renovation. So the media availability and everything was in the field house.
Okay.
Well, it got to the point on day 3, like, there was nothing going on. Like, Gerard's running routes. We're throwing footballs around. The media, I can't remember who it was, a couple media members went and, like, got their pitching wedges and were on their way out to the practice.
Oh, my God.
And as the one is getting ready to swing, like, you just hear, like, security comes running, grounds crew, like.
What the hell are they thinking?
You were left unsupervised.
You're not animals.
By that point, so.
You're lucky. These guys are lucky Frayne didn't take him out.
Yeah.
I don't know, Frayne.
That was pre-Frayne.
Frayne would not have. That would have been.
Because Frayne came in with Pet, I want to say.
Yeah, there would have been eyes on at all times.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, like.
Wait, would have one of those red trackers like he did on Gibbe. Where's he at?
And, like, the people that are here now were not there then from, like, a PR, from, like, we were running amok in the building. Like, we were grabbing weights. Like, people were lifting. So.
No one knew how to
Normally, you come down, like, on day 3, it's the longest day. Plain and simple, it's the worst day, it's the longest day.
Yeah.
If you're covering it, because you're short on sleep, everything along those lines. They come down to talk normally at like 6 o'clock. They waited until they'd contacted all their undrafted free agents. They came down at 10 p.m. I mean, there was nothing to do. There was no air conditioning. It was a hot April. You were just sweating profusely. It was the longest day ever.
There you have it. Yeah, those times are in the rear view. OBM, Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider. Your Cleveland Browns have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. Jason Lockenfor with some prop bets. We'll go over that. Plus, our last chance with the Brugs. Dane Brugler at the bottom of the hour. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Give you the bathroom of your dreams. Why not transform your current bathroom into a custom bath? It'll feel like a spa. Let the Bath Authority make it a reality for you at a fraction of the cost of the competitors. The Bath Authority is Cleveland's premier bath and shower remodeler. They have expert factory-trained installers. They're ready. They can do this for you guys in about an hour. The largest selection of bath projects are all made right here in the United States. Change your bathroom from outdated to outstanding. Tub-to-shower conversions. If you need that done, they can do it. Superior products with expert installers. Call for $500 off right now your next custom bath or shower remodel. That number is 216-220-8399, or go to thebathauthority.com for more on that. CBS Sports' Jason Lockenforth, the best prop bets for this year's NFL draft. Gibby wants to know what side we're taking. I suppose we should pull it up.
I think that would be helpful.
Well, you want me to MC it?
Yeah, you
yes!
MC it. Yeah, we want you to. I want you to. I want the more of you, the better.
No.
MC.
Gibby.
I feel like that's a dig.
Not.
No,
wrong. Truthful, sincere.
Offensive lineman taken in the first round. Over under 7.5.
Under.
Under. What does he say?
I mean, 7's a lot.
Yeah.
There's generally a late first-round run on linemen. Teams see immediate long-term value. How many teams don't have any O-line need? It's rampant.
But didn't people say
if 3 go in the first 7 picks or so and another run on tackle starts in the teens, I see another one in the 20s as well that gets this number to 8. Just with all the wide receivers and edge rushers.
I mean, I just thought
we're going to run out of picks.
A lot of the mocks I'm seeing lately has even Linderbaum going in the second round.
Yeah.
So under.
Yep, same.
Evan Neal to go 3rd overall to the Texans. It was like a plus 450.
So who's our guy, McClain?
Yes.
So he said if Hutchinson or was it Walker or Thibodeau? If Hutchinson and Walker don't go first or second, the Texans will sprint to put the other one in at 3rd overall.
And everybody thinks they are going to go 1, 2.
Is that kind of where we're at now?
Yeah. Well, so especially if Walker goes 1, who's now the betting favorite, that Hutchinson's going to – the Lions are going to go.
Well, they'll kill that. Yeah,
yes.
Michigan. Yeah.
Yes. And then 3 would be – yeah, I'll take that one. Sure. Let's do it. Yeah.
He's got Evan Neal?
Sure.
I'll go the over.
I think it's just will he be picked 3rd? Plus 450.
Over.
So you're saying no. He will not be.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Quarterbacks taken in the first round. Over under 3.
Push.
Can't push. Give me an over under.
Well, they got to put a 3.5 on this then.
I think Willis, Pickett, and Corral go in the first round.
Yeah, the only other one who would be in the mix would probably be the kid out of Carolina.
Not the kid from Cincy.
Maybe Ritter.
I could see him being
a Sam Howell's the other one.
I'd like this number to be 2.5.
But who's going to be – all right, so let's say that this plays. Let's say that it's more than – let's say it's – I'd like it to be 2.5 as well. It feels like Carolina at 6 is in play, Pittsburgh at 20, and then who's the third? Who's the third? Who else comes into the mix?
Somebody
like
coming
Washington
in.
or something? Like who's coming in that needs a
Somebody
quarterback?
that moves back in the end of the first round. Because it's always easy to get back in the end of the first round.
Yeah, I'm just wondering like what team would be one that would want to poke around on a quarterback and give up a future one like next year.
What if Tampa likes somebody?
I think if you got 1 year with Brady, you do everything
load it
to
up.
accentuate for Brady. Like you're not worried about
Detroit's at 32.
Detroit. Yeah, that's not a bad thought.
That could be the third. I don't know. I can't imagine them, I don't know that they'd love any of these guys.
I'm going to turn these into factor fictions instead of plus or minuses.
Okay.
Factor fiction, Kenny Pickett to the Panthers at 6.
Fiction.
Malik Willis.
Where are the odds on that?
Plus 145.
That's it?
Yes.
I would have thought that'd be like plus 1,000.
Yeah, that seems, yeah.
Okay.
Malik Willis to the Saints, factor fiction.
There's another team we take a quarterback.
Fiction.
What the heck? There are no consequences. Fact.
That's true. I mean, there are
no consequences.
We won't even revisit this
By the way,
see what we got right or wrong.
I'd like to. I'd like some. Gibbe's taking copious notes.
Plus 450?
650.
650.
Yeah, so they feel like that's a long shot. They really feel like
they really like
Pickett to the Carolina at 6.
Yeah, that's such a specific.
Right. You'd feel like you'd be getting a lot longer odds for that.
Yeah.
Not.
Fact or fiction? Saints use a first pick on a wide receiver. By the way,
do they have 2?
This is plus 280.
They have 2 ones?
Yes.
A lot of people have one of the Ohio State kids going there. Olave, or I think Wilson will be gone by the time they pick. I'll say fact. They'll take a receiver.
Same. Isn't that a great look when you get to
Very satisfying.
Yeah.
I like it.
Eagles use a first pick on a linebacker. Fact or fiction?
0%.
Can't imagine it.
What's the odds on that?
Plus 750.
Yeah. No way. Absolutely not.
And then Charles Cross, 5th overall pick to the Giants. Fact or fiction? Offensive lineman, I'm assuming?
To
Don't even know. Charles Cross.
To what team?
The Giants.
See, this is why this is a tough draft. This is why Michael Silver said what he said. It's just here's a fact or fiction. It's believable that the guy we get at 44, especially I think if it's a defensive end, is every bit as the guy you would have got at 13.
I think that's fair.
It's in play, right? Like it feels like there's a bit.
I think
it feels like there's
receivers
no
gap.
game wreckers.
Yeah.
Agreed. Receiver, after those 5 or 6, then there's a bit of a drop, but it does feel like there's no real game-changing wrecker at defensive end. There's no Miles. There's no Bosa. There's no Young. So there's not this huge drop-off. And for sure, is Hutchinson better than – I mean, let's just say it's a Jabo on a red shirt. Are we for sure? No. I mean, it's not. And I realize there are no certainties in anything with the draft. But it does feel like this isn't that big of a drop, especially if it's defensive end.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Team to draft Kenny Pickett in the draft. Panthers, Saints, Steelers, Seahawks, or Falcons? And I'll give you your odds.
Steelers.
They're plus 350.
That pit locker room is basically in.
They play home games there.
Yeah.
It is right there. I mean, they've got their own locker room. That would be kind of a wild thing to continue his career. People are making such a big deal about his hands. I don't know. What do you think? Carney hands, small, nomads, smell like cabbage.
Smell like cabbage.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know about the hand thing. It's interesting because they passed on Marino, Pitt guy, could have had him, could have drafted him, didn't. This ain't that. But I do wonder if they talk themselves into it, especially in a division where when you're talking about Lamar, Joe, and Deshaun, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything.
That's right. You got to get one. By the way, Panthers GM Scott Fitterer says there are a couple quarterbacks he would feel comfortable taking at number 6. He also noted there are 3 or 4 teams he's heard from that are serious about trading up to 6. They would love to get more picks and trade back if their must-have prospects are gone.
He's lying.
That sounds like, please call me, begging.
Yeah, he's lying.
Begging.
First quarterback selected in the draft, Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett?
Malik Willis.
Willis is minus 150. Pickett plus 150.
Kenny Pickett. But you just have a plus. Wait a second. You can get better odds on having Kenny Pickett be the first quarterback taken than you can get on nailing that he goes 6 to Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Something feels fishy here.
This is an interesting one. Kayvon Thibodeau.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly a hot button player going into this draft from Oregon.
Why is he?
I don't know.
I mean, he didn't play. Thibodeau didn't play in the Ohio State game. He was precautionary. He was out. But he has been. Here's the thing I'll say about Thibodeau. He has been from the time. You want to do the Miles guy? It's probably Thibodeau.
Yeah, the closest.
Thibodeau was the number 1 player in high school, coming out of high school. He was great at Oregon. He played. There's a lot of Clowney to it too, like very conservative coming back from injury in the draft-eligible year. Had kind of proven everything you need to be proven. Game wrecker when he plays. Like, to me, he's...
Is he like it feels like, based on what you're saying, is he a no-brainer to take as the first defensive end?
I feel like he should be the number one pick.
So do I. I don't know why people are worried about it.
He was on early mocks.
He was. If you go back to a year ago, he was probably the number one guy on most people's boards. Of course, Spencer Rattler was in the first round on a lot of those too, and up very high. But to me, like, he's we identified early, and we're better at this than we've ever been when it comes to prospects. You see this in college recruiting all the time. We're better than we've ever been at identifying talent young. He's got it.
Yeah.
He's got it, man.
I don't know if they're worried about something between the ears or whatever. Anyways, the over-under draft position 5.5.
I think he'll go. I think under.
I think he'll go over. I think he'll go I think he's going to probably go between 6 and 10. He should go earlier.
I think he's going to go over. He will not be drafted in the top 5, even though we should. Here's what Dane said. Not a fluid mover. His impact runs hot and cold, but he understands how to create leverage as a pass rush with his length, flexibility, and hand strength. Draws comparisons to Jadeveon Clowney with NFL teams and has the talent to develop into a high-end starter if he stays committed. Pac-10 Freshman Defensive Player of the Year, unanimous All-American, first-team Pac-10, All-Pac-10. I mean, pretty good.
What did
5-star recruit?
So maybe I could be just doing Dane because I just did all that.
He was the number 2 recruit overall.
Did I even drop Clowney?
In 2019, behind only Nolan Smith. Where's Nolan Smith now?
I don't know.
Went to Georgia.
I remember it being Thibodeau 1, but it depends on what ranking you.
All right, real quick.
He had a Final 5 of Alabama, Florida State, LSU, Oregon, and USC, and committed to Mario Cristobal and the Ducks because of his desire to stay at defensive end. The school's understanding of his interests outside of football.
There you go. Look at the beast. God,
the beast. I mean,
Jamison Williams.
Just listen.
Over under 14.5.
Jeez.
Under. He's going to be the first receiver taken.
Wow. Bold move, Cotton.
There aren't even odds right now.
Scottabooch.
Being the first one.
He is going to be.
There you go.
Wilson was plus 110. Drake London plus 200. Jamison plus 250.
Book him, Dano. People really like that speed, baby. You know what they say? I got the need.
Total first-round wide receiver
for Scottabooch.
Over under 6.5. And then we got to break.
On who? What's this?
Total first-round wide receiver selected. The over-under is 6.5.
Over.
Tommy Clayco, Mr. Tom Bomb, tweet of the day. The more I hear you guys talk about it, this feels like the egg salad of drafts. Yeah.
Nailed it.
The meat cleaves.
Are we doing Bruggs next?
Bruggs is next.
Dane Brugler next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Operation system collects all the data you need, but you're having a hard time bringing it together and seeing the full picture. Beau here from my friends at EOX Vantage. Their data scientists are also business operations experts. Your EOX Vantage team will help you build an automated system that brings your data sources together in real time and turns them into eye-opening dashboards so you can make smart, time-sensitive decisions. Starting at spreadsheets to provide insight you needed last month. Well, with EOX Vantage, you know exactly where your people stand on the activities and deliverables, and gauge your financial performance easily, accurately, and track progress and your ROI. Check out how companies are making their business intelligence smarter by visiting EOXVantage.com. And with that, we head out on the hotline for their good buddy Dane Brugler, the athletic, the author of The Beast, which Z threw on the table and nearly broke. Dane, thanks for the time, buddy. From your vantage point now as we sit here on a Tuesday, where are you with this? Is there a part of it where you're like, boy, I hope they don't screw this up? What intrigues you now 48 hours out?
I'm just let's get picking. You know, let's get things started. It's there's gonna be a lot of noise. There has been a lot of noise this week, and there will continue to be a lot of noise this week in terms of what these teams are going to do. And it starts at number one. You know, there seems to be a split in the building in Jacksonville. The coaches want Ike Ekwonu. The scouts want Aiden Hutchinson. The GM wants Travon Walker and all the upside that comes with him. So what's going to happen at one, and then the ripple effect of how that affects the picks right after that, it's really going to be interesting. And there's certain pivot points where we just don't know. Houston at 3 is a wild card. Atlanta at 8, Seattle at 9. I mean, I'm talking to teams in the teens, and they have no idea how to even, you know, they've got so many different scenarios that could happen in the top 10 because even, you know, just talking to, you know, their buddies in the league, they have no idea how the top 10 is going to play out. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You know, mock drafts are going to be very, very wrong, and that's okay because if that means we had a fun first round with some surprising picks, then I'm here for that.
Is that because there just isn't that dude in this draft that there is that much confusion about what's going to happen, how it could happen, how it's going to go down? And obviously no quarterbacks, right? I mean, in terms of
exactly
top flight quarterbacks.
I think the way that I've been explaining it, try to explain it the best, is we're missing those tent poles that hold everything up. You know, we're missing those quarterbacks. Last year, we knew quarterbacks were going 1, 2, 3. We knew Justin Fields somewhere in the top 12. We knew Mac Jones somewhere mid-first round. And then, but even beyond that, we knew that there's a good chance Kyle Pitts was going forward to Atlanta. We knew there was a good chance that for the Bengals, it was either the wide receiver or the tackle. And if the wide receiver went 5, then we knew the tackle was going to go to the Lions probably 2 picks later. So we had a good feeling for, you know, the quote-unquote blue chippers and the elite guys. This year we just don't have those caliber of players. But while that upper class of players is pretty thin, that middle class is just, you know, it's so deep with talent. And I'm talking about that, you know, most of the first round, second round, third round, maybe even a little bit of that fourth round. That's where the strength of this draft is. And I feel like we say that a lot, you know, every year, but it's especially true this year because what we don't have in the high-end talent at the top, we make up for with the depth on day 2 especially. So this is just one of those years where it's not a great year to be picking in the top 10 relative to other years.
And, Dane, I think the other thing that contributes to this is we have so many teams with multiple picks. There's so many teams that are out of the first round altogether, so it does feel like it's almost like this is a private party, you know.
8 teams have half of the first-round picks.
Right. I mean, so that just makes it even. I think that takes some of the – I think your point is well made and the correct one in that the middle class in this draft, the upper middle class in this draft is really big and really good. And by the way, we'll get to how that benefits us at 44. But I think of the intrigue of the first, everything you're talking about with the tent poles, but then also how 8 of the teams have half the picks, that's where you lose a little bit of that, right?
And are we going to see trades, you know, with these multiple first-round picks? We're going to have a lot of teams that want to trade back and pick up extra picks. You know, Carolina, they pick at 6, and then they don't pick again until the 4th round. So Carolina is desperately trying to get out of there. You know, we have several teams that are looking to do that. It's just will these teams look to package picks to trade up? I just don't know that we're going to have way more teams looking to trade back than we are teams looking to trade up. It's going to be tough in that respect. But, you look at a team like the Chiefs. They have 2 picks in the first, 2 picks in the second, 2 picks in the third, 2 picks in the fourth. No way the Chiefs are picking 8 players in the first 4 rounds. It's not happening. So where did the Chiefs go? Do the Chiefs look to move up in the first round, the second round? Paying attention to some of these runs at certain positions, like wide receiver. We're going to see wide receiver run at some point in the first round, and does that spur some action from some teams that are really looking to get that receiver where they move up, even if it's 5-6 spots, just to make sure they get their guy? And that brings us to the second round. And the Browns at 44, they're going to be in a unique position where they don't pick in the first 40 picks, but they also have those 2/3. And so if they want to move up a little bit, they're going to be able to in this draft. And I feel like there's still going to be good players there in the late 30s. But is there the right player that will cause the Browns to want to move up and get their guy?
That's what's going to be fascinating, I think, from the Browns standpoint is, we've never seen Andrew Berry pick at the assigned spot in the second round, and he's gotten 2 first-round talents in Grant Delpit and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and how that ends up playing out. And we've talked, I think, ad nauseum, and we've got the great Draft on Tap series that I'd urge you to check out at the Browns YouTube channel and the Browns mobile app, myself and Dane, really breaking down the position groups that are most likely to be targeted at 44 and then into the third round as well, with those 2 third-round picks that the Browns have at 78 and 99. So, Dane, I want to talk just kind of more about what you're hearing trends, and there's a lot of thought, and I'm reading a lot about this, and I'm sure you're hearing a lot about this, that a lot of teams only have 15 or 16 first-round grades, and so that the back half of the first round is kind of wide open in terms of how each team values guys, and that there may be guys that we've been talking about as second and third rounders who go in the first round, and guys that we've talked about as first rounders who may go in the second and third. What do you kind of make of that notion, and are there some names you're hearing that are risers? And one that caught my attention that I keep reading about is Logan Hall, who you've had to the Browns at 44, and now it sounds like he might not be there, the young man out of Houston.
Yeah, no, and there's a good chance. I'm a big fan of Logan Hall. I think on my top 100, he's like 36 or something like that. So that early second round range is where I have him, but would not be surprised at all if he goes in the first. And in a draft like this, most years teams have 18 to 22 first rounders in most drafts. This year might be a little bit less than that for some teams, but yeah, we're going to see a lot of players, and there's going to be some surprises. It's going to happen where a team maybe has a second round player that most teams have a third round grade on, and so there's just going to be some surprises that we haven't seen in a lot of first round mocks, and that's really going to make it fun because it's going to shake things up. If Quay Walker, the linebacker from Georgia, is the first linebacker off the board, no one should be surprised. That's something that is, I've heard, if he goes 21 to the Patriots, that's very, very possible that could happen. I think, George Karlaftis, he has more second-round grades than first-round grades out there. And so I still think he's going first round because he plays the right position, and it's easy to appreciate his ability as a pass rusher, the power at contact, the hands, the motor doesn't quit. But so a lot of teams, they kind of think he is what he is. He's just not going to be that. It doesn't offer a ton of upside with Karlaftis, and so there's at least a chance he could slip to maybe the second round. So yeah, I think that boards from team to team are wildly different, and we're going to see that play out on draft weekend, both Thursday and Friday night.
Dane, at 44, Nathan and I feel, pretty strongly receiver, defensive end are 2 positions of need that this team needs, that they would identify, would want at 44. If there is a run on both, which position group are you getting the best value at 44? In other words, who still has really good at 44? Which one's better, receiver or D end?
I think that's probably you could make a case for both. I think it just depends on who's off the board at that point, who's still available. I do think that it would be easier because edge rusher is so deep this year. It would be easier to wait on that position because you feel good about who's still going to be there in the third. But it also depends on, because you're not if the Browns are trading up, moving up a few spots, they're not going to do it just for any receiver or any pass rusher. They're going to do it for a specific player. So whether that's, a George Pickens or a Sky Moore, whoever that could be, it depends on that player still being there. And George Pickens is a tough evaluation because there are the character concerns. It's the immaturity with him. He's a young player, and that's something they have to worry about. He's coming off an ACL injury, so there are red flags. There's a reason a George Pickens is still available, probably still available early second round, and was not a first round pick. So for the Browns, it's important that they are 100% comfortable with these guys if they're going to make a move, or even if they sit at 44 and are able to get their guy there. So I think more so than the positions, it just depends on who's available. But I do agree with you guys. I think edge rusher, wide receiver, that makes the most sense. This is a team that believes in cornerstone positions, and wide receiver and edge rusher are both apply. And with using their first pick, using a top 50 pick, they want to come away with an impact player. And I think there's a good chance they could find one at either one of those two positions this year.
Dane, I wanted to ask you about Pickens just for a second, because he's the one that it feels like you're kind of right. First round talent. But here we are talking about a guy who's only 21, is in the second round. Yes, he's coming off, but I mean, you could make AJ Green comparisons. You could say this guy's got the size, the speed, all of that, dominated in college. When you hear all of these red flags all of a sudden that kind of come out now, where you've got, from Bruce Feldman in The Athletic, and your colleague there at The Athletic wrote about Pickens, and he had three people chime in. One was a scout. He said a lot of upside, can't get out of his own way. Then a wide receiver coach, there's issues. He can do everything, but I wouldn't touch him because, basically of these issues. Another one, top 5 receiver on tape, so many red flags, a lot of growing up to do. Is this stuff well known, well documented, which is why he was always slated in the second round, or is this some of it this time of the year? Hey, let's get this out there because we really want Pickens, because he has the chance to be an actual stud in this draft, and so let's get some bad stuff out there that is directionally correct, so that maybe he falls a little more.
No, it's definitely something that's been talked about, and it's something that has followed him, since his freshman year. Even as silly as trading punches with a player on the field during a game, or he was flagged last season as a sophomore for spraying water on a Tennessee player near the sideline in the middle of a game. Like, it's just these little things that could lead to big things that you have to be comfortable with the player. And so it's funny when in my report on George Pickens, the weaknesses, I think there's like 7 lines, and the last 3 lines are all injury or character related. I mean, that's the big thing with him, and that's why he's, I think, 47 on my board and not higher. Is he's not a clean prospect, and that doesn't mean that he's not going to turn out to be an outstanding player. He absolutely could. I'm glad. My current employer doesn't judge me on some of the poor decisions I made when I was 20 years old, and I'm sure that goes for all of us. So it's one of those things where you do your due diligence, you find out more about the person, make sure you're comfortable, bring them into your facility, and because that's where the Browns they're fishing right now, is that early to mid second round, and so that's part of the pool that will be available for them, is a guy that maybe has first round ability, but there's a reason he's going to still be available at that point. So it's not late info. This has been well known, and something that I think teams, especially a team like the Browns with where they're picking, they've done plenty of research and homework just to figure out if he's going to be a fit.
Dane, you have you've nailed us the last few years in terms of what we would do in the draft.
That's right.
You picked
Greg
a lot
Newsome.
of them. You picked a lot.
You
of
made
them.
it harder this year.
I know we did. I hate even putting you on the spot at 44. So I'll give you a couple as opposed to one specifically. Give me 4 or 5 names that you feel like the perfect fit at 44.
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, not picking till 44, not knowing how those picks are going to come off the board, and to your point too about Andrew Berry not staying at that pick. He's moved around, and so there's a good chance he does that again. I still think I think there's a good chance Logan Hall doesn't go first round. I know the Bengals at 31 have done a ton of work on him. That's a possible landing spot, so he might be in the division. I still want to mention him just because if he does fall to the second round, maybe that is a guy you'll go up and get 6'6", 280, a ton of ability, a good kid. He's on the upward trajectory. Drake Jackson from USC, 6'3", 270, has a loose athleticism. He has body control. He can win as a pass rusher, can hold up as a run defender. There's just a lot to like with Drake Jackson. I'm surprised he's not getting a little bit more love, but I think he fits a lot of what this team would look for. So those are the two edge rushers that I think kind of fit the mold. And then if they do go offense at wide receiver, I still think that George Pickens will be in the mix. And we have no way of knowing just how the Browns come down on him with just how he'll be a fit with the coaches and in the community and all that. But I do think that he's very much on the short list. And I would throw Sky Moore in there as well from Western Michigan. A younger player, doesn't have the size I think they want, but speed, yak skills, reflexes. I mean, he's kind of in some ways, a supercharged Jarvis Landry with how he plays. So I think that those two receivers, those two edge rushers, I think there's a decent chance it could be one of those four players.
You project Sky Moore at this level to operate from the inside as opposed to the outside?
I think he's inside-outside. There's nothing on tape that tells me he can't play outside. Now, I think he could really be a weapon inside, with a lot of that short game, the catch and go, quick slants, just give him the middle of the field to be his playground and let him create. But, he has the release package where he can get off press on the outside. He can win down the field. He has that speed. So even though he is a little undersized, he's just under 5'10", just under 200 pounds. So not ideal for what you want on the outside, but huge hands. He can go up and win the football. I'm not going to say he's Steve Smith on the outside, but he could be that stylistically that type of player if you want to line him up as a more traditional outside receiver.
You're the best, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time and your expertise.
And we're almost there, guys. Looking forward to it.
Yes.
Almost. The great Dane Brugler in The Athletic, his draft guide to the beast, is simply the best. It is set up and laid out here on the table for us as we prepare for the draft coming later this week. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily. So much more to come right here on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family-owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll be part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. Coming up on your first Friday edition of the program, Glenn Cook will join us and Daniel Jeremiah, among others. So you have that to look forward to, which is nice.
Yeah, perhaps I think some big stuff tomorrow, I would expect, because you got Glenn, you got Daniel Jeremiah, and Gibbe, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe even a luminary player?
Could be.
Oh.
Promise small, deliver big.
So I said perhaps.
Hence why there were only 2 names on the sheet.
2 names
there.
on the list. Yeah.
That's right.
Can't wait to go back and watch the show and critique that one.
Do you guys
You can tease the people a little bit, Gibbe.
give them a little teaser? Hey, do you guys think we'll see a deal between now and round 1, like a big NFL deal?
You said I think it's going to happen during the draft.
During?
If it happens, it's going to happen during the draft.
Did you guys see J.R. Smith got a 4.0 his first year at North Carolina A&T? How awesome is that?
I love that guy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's pretty spectacular.
He cares.
Because when he was here, I would not have guessed a 4.0 would have been in his
Nobody would have guessed it, but he
He's
doesn't even
applied
need to
himself.
do this. He wants to. He wanted to grow. He wanted to play golf. He wanted to grow as a human. Got cheated out of this.
He has.
And now he's crushing it.
It's impressive.
It's an awesome
Baco
story.
Nation strolling by with a knapsack.
It is an absolutely awesome.
Is that a
awesome
man
story.
bag?
By the way, that Celtics 4-0 over the Brooklyn Nets was as entertaining a sweep as I've ever watched. That game last night was awesome.
Tatum's great. I love Tatum's
He's
game.
better than I thought.
I love him.
He's better than I thought he would be. He's really – they were tough, man. Brooklyn gave him everything last night, and they just kept answering it, even the garbage 6 call on Tatum.
Well, now they're going to be able to get – that center was able to work in, right, Williams?
Robert Williams is coming back.
Yeah.
But they got to go through now. They got to go through Milwaukee.
I wouldn't be afraid if I was them. No Middleton, right?
He's down now. Yeah. All right. Next level up next. We're back tomorrow. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.